Hey Bat fans, Luke here with a midweek Bat Chat session with y'all. And tonight we're going to talk about the two Bat-related books that came out this week. First being Batman issue number 3, the third, well maybe fourth installment if you include the Rebirth issue of Batman following the DC Comics Rebirth event, as well as Justice League number 1, which it follows the Rebirth issue that we had not too long ago. In this one, we introduce Tony S. Daniel onto the Justice League creative team. And I will say, for the most part, this was a good week, albeit a real light one. But overall, I had a really good time reading the Bat books. And first, we're going to take a look at Batman issue number 3. As you see there, I got the two covers. I got the main cover there by, I believe, David Finch. And over here, I got the Tim Sale variant, which I just think is just totally awesome. It reminds me a little bit, and this is going to be a sore subject to some, I know, of the one cover. I think it was actually the finale of Anarchy that Buccellato and Manapult run on Detective. It just had this real solid white cover, but that had like the bat cow as like pretty much one of the only distinguishable features on the cover. This one here kind of sort of like that, but we have the Gotham skyline and then a very minimalistic view of Batman there, which I just thought was just really cool. So I really did love that variant. But this cover here, I'll be honest, I was a little worried. Because I think some of the details, especially on Batman and the Batcycle, I guess? But yeah, I just think for some reason I thought the cape was a little too big. And then the cowl and the ears a little too short. But all in all, that being said, a pretty energetic cover, but I will say what I think in this issue, it's definitely not the cover that makes the issue, it's the stuff inside, because I thought the inside portion of this issue was really good. And it starts right off the bat with how the story kind of begins. As you're watching this family go through this alley, and they run into this thug who holds them up at gunpoint. And I'll be honest, as you're reading this, you're thinking, because it's saying then, you're getting kind of a throwback of Bruce's origin, as, Bruce and Thomas and Martha are going through the alley and they get put up at gunpoint by Joe Chill. But as we see here, actually it is not Bruce, because obviously you see Batman here and this Finch really awesome artwork right here comes to save the day. And we learned that this is actually through the dialogue of, if you've been following this story of Gotham and Gotham Girl, this is actually told through the perspective of Gotham's, their parents, actually. And some really good dialogue with, kind of like correlation of what Gotham means to them, which we heard, millions of times before. But I thought it rang pretty good here in this one. And mainly because I was duped, because I thought we were going to get another rehashing of Bruce's origin again. You're like, okay, I got it. But they did throw us into a little bit of a trick there, being that this is actually what happened to Gotham. The boy, very similar to Batman. But whereas Batman's beginnings had a beginning born on tragedy, this one, his beginning is actually born on the doings of a hero and the prevention of a tragedy. So we see basically how there are two, we'll call them origins, differ, but they're very similar in it as well. But we find out that Gotham, which I forget his name, Henry, I think. No, that's the husband's name. George? I can't remember. Claire is Gotham Girl. I can't remember if it's George or whatnot, but basically what happens is, we'll just call him George, and I'm sure we're going to run into it, is that Hank, there it is. Hank and Claire. So Hank, I don't know where I came up with George. Hank becomes infatuated with Batman, and basically what Batman did for them, and then in doing so, they kind of adopt as they kind of grow older this feeling of philanthropism, and then you see things they did, working at the local homeless shelter. They do volunteer work at the hospital. They do a little digging into forensic science and really begin to tone their bodies, intense physical workout regimen. And then they actually go overseas, kind of like the Peace Corps. And while they're over there, they ask their parents to wire them over some money. And all this is going on. These parents are kind of recasting the story. We see Matches Malone, a little cameo in this issue. He was trying to obviously find out a little bit more about Gotham Girl, Claire, and Hank, whatnot. But yeah, he basically, it kind of ends right there that they asked them to wire him some money, and they did. And then it kind of correlates to, when they return back to Gotham, all of a sudden you got these superheroes here. So all in all, I thought that was very nice. But as that occurs, there's actually a suicide bomber that goes on one of the bridges in Gotham and mentions the fact that they're here because the Monster Men are coming. So we get another reference to the Monster Men. Obviously, the crossover stories is going to be coming. And as this occurs, Batman does rush to the scene, and in doing so gets to the bridge, links up with Gotham and Gotham Girl, and they actually kind of save that. But while that happens, there's an explosion that happens across Gotham. You see there more of the Bat Cycle. But that occurs. You see there, they basically some really good art by Dave Finch. Man, you gotta hand it to him. Can't write for crap, but man, he can do some pretty good art. But yeah, as they save the events that happens at the bridge, another bomb goes off, an explosion goes off across Gotham. And from there, I'm not going to go ahead and show any more other than this nice little image here, Batman leaving the bridge. As Gotham and Gotham Girl go to investigate what happened in the explosion across Gotham, they run into none other than the individual we saw in the last issue, and we'll kind of leave it at that. Now, that said, story I thought was really good. Again, I liked the intro. They had me duped. I thought we were going to get another Bruce Wayne origin story, but they turned it on its head, and now very similar origins to Hank, at least. Claire was just a young girl at the time, so didn't really get the full impact of Batman in her life, but she's very close to her brother, so obviously if the brother's infatuated with Batman and its influence, it's going to rub off on her. And I thought that was really well done. I think this Monster Men story is going to get really interesting. I'm excited for it. I know some are a little concerned about a crossover, but that said, I'm excited for it. And I really dig Hugo Strange. It's good to see Hugo back. I mean, in reality, I think the last story we saw him, that was in the Arkham series. I don't even think even continuity. Hasn't he even been there in the New 52? I don't think so. I gotta look deep into that one, but I think we gotta go back to like pre-New 52. I think since we got a good dose of Hugo, and it's good to see him back. And I mean, I like all these kind of correlate all these people. I mean, I say this and it's gonna sound really morbid, but all these individuals, committing suicide, warning of the Monster Men are coming. While granted, suicide is definitely not a thing to gloat over, but it does bring a really weird, eerie, scary kind of feel to it. And the fact that these Monster Men is making these individuals do that, or at least the influence of whoever's behind the Monster Men has that kind of effect on people. First off, it just reek Hugo Strange, because that's just the influence he has, but it does pique your interest. That said, I think you can begin to connect the dots of how Gotham and Gotham Girl got their powers and how it could potentially connect back to Hugo Strange, Obviously, with the wire transfer, that was just kind of glanced over. The money transfer, I'm sorry, while they were overseas. You begin to, again, you kind of connect the dots that maybe, a deal was made with Hugo for them to get their power somehow, some way. But we'll see. But other than that, I thought the art was good, the story was good, and I think Tom King is this probably, I think, his most solid issue of the run so far. Because, I mean, to be honest, thus far it hasn't been bad, but I think you can definitely tell he's just trying to get his footing in this bat run. So, that said, good issue. I give it 3.5 out of 5. Which brings us to the final book we're going to talk to, and I'm not going to go too much in depth in it because, to be perfectly honest, no, not a whole heck of a lot happened. And that is Justice League #1. Now, I say that I'm not really knocking the book because I enjoyed reading it, but as far as depth of story, nothing much has happened. And basically what occurs inside is what I think was pretty much the biggest weakness of this book. Was it's something we've seen many times before. There's a cataclysmic, apocalyptic type event that occurs across the world, and the world needs the help of the Justice League. I mean, basically that's what's happened. A major earthquake, all the major fault lines across the world has shifted, and now all the major cities across the world are being engulfed by an earthquake. And then obviously those are along the coastline or near the ocean. There's threat of tsunamis, with the exception of Gotham. Gotham, for some reason, isn't really affected by the earthquake, which is kind of phenomenal because one of the marquee bat stories of all time dealt with the earthquake and cataclysm that's run up to No Man's Land. But for at least this earthquake, Gotham really didn't get too much effect of it. But that said, Batman in particular had to deal with something else, which we'll kind of see as we glance through the pages inside. But right off the bat, again, we got Tony S. Daniel on the creative team as his first issue. And I think right off the bat, again, I think kind of like the art in the last issue, the Rebirth issue, I really wasn't too much of a fan. But the first page you open up and this is what you see. And it's just like, man, Tony S. Daniel, man, just really doing a good job on art. And I thought you'll see many pages in here where his art is just phenomenal. I mean, he's got talent. I mean, another case between him and Finch, really can't write all that well, but man, his art's good. And basically what's happening is there's Diana is breaking up a fight, and the dialogue, I liked her dialogue right off the bat. It's basically, hey, the world's got all these problems, religious extremism, border disputes, political differences, whatnot. I gave you guys a chance, to kind of stop it, and now you're not. Now I'm just pissed. That's basically what happens there. As you see there, now I'm angry. So, but as that occurs, again, the earthquake begins, and throughout the world, and now the Justice League is dispatched to kind of help quell this natural disaster, quote, end quote. As you see there, Simon Baz and man, while I can never remember her name, Jessica Cruz, are in Beijing trying to prevent the collapse of the city. You got New York's Cyborg trying to prevent this big runaway train from collapsing on people. You got the Flash in San Francisco. I mean, again, Tony S. Daniel hitting a dang home run on this 2-page splash there. Trying to save children from inside fallen buildings, which is actually good. They have Atlantis, the city with the tsunami threat. Again, this ad there, which I thought was cool at first, but after reading every DC book, it kind of gets old after a while. Let's see, and then you got Gotham again. And then Superman obviously being everywhere. Right now he's doing really good things, and you kind of get the gist that Batman is just not totally trusting, which is an interesting dynamic, especially since how close the relationship with Bruce and Clark was. Obviously, New 52 and before. So obviously now it's kind of interesting. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit of when Jim Gordon took up the mantle of the Bat after the events of Endgame, where Clark was still trying to feel him out too, and same thing, Gordon as well, vice versa. So the initial kind of uneasy relationship between Batman and Superman, pretty interesting. And this is what I was talking about. While the earthquake really didn't affect Gotham so much like we saw in the last issue, that big amoeba-looking thing attacking the city. This is what Gotham's got to deal with. So that happens, and all of a sudden, all these people kind of like hypnotize or turn into like zombies, or whatever. And they're basically, some of the superheroes lose their powers, like Aquaman does. Flash loses his speed a little bit, and then there they go after Diana. And they're all basically saying, "You took something from us, we're going to take it back. It's ours." It's kind of like the verbal theme as we hear all these, or we read all these people. And then you see the very end, Diana, as he's dealing with all these zombie type people, basically saying, I have friends and we're going to come for you. Obviously reference the Justice League. So again, as far as story, nothing all that much happened. Definitely nothing original, but I will say what really stood out here is Tony Daniels' art. It was just absolutely superb, but still had a good time reading it. If I had to rank it, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5, mainly because of the art. But if they really think held it back, is this is something we kind of seen before. Maybe it's going to have its own twist here, but I mean, the Earth's in trouble. We need the Justice League. We've seen it many of times, but we'll see. Again, I give it 3 out of 5, above average. Had a good time reading it. The art was a standout. If the story was probably a little bit better, maybe more original, maybe that's why I'm kind of dogging more. It's not really that it was a really poorly executed issue, because it wasn't. It was. I just think it just lacked originality a little bit. So, yeah, but we'll see. Partially too, I'm just getting over my love with Johns and Fabok's run on Justice League before. Man, that Darkseid War was just phenomenal. So, again, open mind, seeing how Hitch does in his run, but got good artists here. Tony S. Daniel has some really good art here. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on this week's Bat Books, which is 2. There are some others that were released I didn't pick up. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. Yeah, at some point I just kind of have to draw the line on the books I'm getting. Since I'm getting Batgirl, I think that's good enough. But I think that's it, though. Yeah. Constantine came out this week. For now, I think that's on a short leash. It comes to a point, I might have to just trim the list down just a little bit, because I know we got a couple books coming out, like Killer Be Killed, the new Brubaker book. I'm definitely jumping on that. And Reborn, the Millar Capullo book. Got to get that. So, I mean, my books like Constantine and Lucifer might be on a short leash. We'll see. And anything else new other than like Red Hood, I'm definitely getting that. But any other the Rebirth stuff that I'm not already getting, I haven't read before, like continuation, I just might not get it. It just comes down to time and money at that point. But that said, I hope Batgirl and the Birds of Prey do really well. Huntress, Black Canary, and Batgirl together does sound interesting. It was tough. I had it in my hand. I had to really think hard about it, but unfortunately, it's just time and money at some point. But we'll see, and hopefully it does really well. So, but other books, I mean, Superman. I got Superman to read, Green Arrow this week, bunch of other stuff. So it was a good week. So anyway, rambling. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Hope you had a great week of books. Again, as far as Bat books, pretty good. Man, Batman, probably the best issue so far in the Rebirth. Tom King really did a good issue here. So anyway, that said, got to end it here. Take care, everybody.